Hi, this is Rob Sheen with the Source Conference, and I'm here with Robert Sell, who is a senior IT manager in the aerospace industry. And he's going to be speaking at the Source Phoenix Mesa conference coming up at the end of February, on February 28th and March 1st. And his talk title is Exploits in Wetware, which is a funny title. But when you read the abstract, you realize he's actually placed in the DEFCON social engineering capture the flag contest, which is kind of a big deal. And the talk is, it seems like it's along the lines of what you did there. So I'd really love it if you could tell us a little bit more about your talk.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Thanks for having me at the conference. I feel very honored to be able to share my experience with people and attendees there. And, I really love doing that. And, yeah, my talk is really focused on a couple different things. So I think it's going to be attractive for different people at different levels. I take a look at my experience at DEF CON, talk briefly about, what DEF CON is and what it's all about. And my adventures there, and then more specifically the social engineering CTF, which is at the Social Engineering Village, and what it's like, how you get points, how the people win, and then ultimately what I learned from that, and really what companies can take away from this, and even individuals as well, to how to guard yourself against these new social engineering attacks.
Awesome. Yeah, I've actually, I've not participated in the contest, but I've watched
hmm
it a few times, and it always blows my mind how talented some of the folks are that get through to the final levels of that. So for those, when I teach security, I actually use that as an example of how bad things can be. So for those that don't know the DEF CON social engineering capture the flag game, could you just like at a really high level describe for people what it
Sure.
is and how it works?
Yeah, sure. It's broken up into two main parts. The first part is it's about 3 weeks, I think, of OSINT, open source intelligence, that you're doing against a particular company, which is your target. And every year they will take a particular industry. Last year was the gaming industry, and they give you a company within that sector. And you have 3 weeks to collect what they call flags, which are basically points for answers that you get from finding this on the internet through OSINT. Things like who does their garbage collection. Maybe it's their SSID, which is a little more difficult to get, although possible. And then the second part of the contest is when you show up in Vegas and you're doing your 20 minutes of live vishing. So that's where you're actually calling the company and getting the same points, so asking the same questions, but you're actually doing it live in front of hundreds of people in this plexiglass booth, almost like a big phone booth. And so it's pretty intimidating at some levels because you want to perform, you want to get those points, and you've probably seen the people in front of you already do well, and so you're really, for me, I wasn't nervous, but I was super anxious to just do it and get some points, and so super excited. And so that's the probably the biggest thing as a competitor there is to just kind of keep your cool and you get your pretexts working for you. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Right. So the thing I always found really interesting was, I mean, what you just said is perfectly describes it, but like the specific techniques that people use when they're in that booth, when they're
hmm
making the phone calls to various people in the company, like,
hmm
you know, one time I saw somebody figure out like they basically reverse engineered like practically their entire IT infrastructure by saying things like, "Oh yeah, I'm trying to get my Dell computer onto your network," and they're
hmm
like, "Well, we don't have Dells, we have ThinkPads." He's like, "Oh yeah, ThinkPad, my bad. That was my home computer," and he just did that for like
Yeah.
20 minutes straight, just like completely like asking leading questions, throwing up false
hmm
information, letting them correct him. It was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a classic trick, right? It's kind of like the false negative,
Right.
and it works so well. So allowing people to correct you is one of the things I talk about, right? And everybody feels that kind of pride of being right. Oh no, you're actually wrong. This is the real answer, and then they give you that information, and that's exactly what you want. So you have to be humble when you're a social engineer sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting. Like one of the reasons why social engineering even is a thing at all is because people generally want to be helpful.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? They want to
yeah,
hold
which
the
is a
door
good
for
thing.
you. They want to correct you. They want to give you the information you need because
Yeah,
they want to help. Like that's part. Well, it's like hardwired
mhm,
into our brains as
yeah,
humans.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so given that, my question for you is: does the average person stand a chance against this ever in an
Yeah, so that
organization?
It's difficult, right? Because if you ask someone like Chris Hagnaggy, who runs the social engineering village, he'll tell you stories about how he's fallen victim to simple phishing techniques, and we all have, right? And I think they're getting better and better. So, we can't give up. We have to educate our companies and take certain precautions. It's definitely going to be a challenge. I think the key is just don't give up, and we have to keep learning more and becoming better at what we do. It's an arms race basically, and I
Right.
think that we win some and we lose some. So just
Yep.
keep improving.
So, um, is there anything we can kind of do as organizations to like kind of systematically make it? I kind of I'm always of the mindset of, well, no matter what, no matter how well you train people,
Yeah,
someone's going to get fooled some of the time. Like you said, we all get fooled some of the time. Like
yeah,
everybody has the right combination of buttons that can be pressed. And I've heard
hmm
about some people doing some fairly unethical button pressing in order to get people to give them information, including like pretending that their child was, just taken to the hospital and all kinds of
yeah,
crazy stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah,
so if we assume that people will penetrate in that way and will get through
hmm
the wetware layer, so to speak,
yeah, yeah.
what are some things we could do internally that might mitigate some of that risk?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that we can do, and I'll talk about a few of the more human factors that we can easily do during my talk. There's both technical and human, and on the human side, I would say one of the big things you want to do is talk to your receptionist, right? How much training does your receptionist have? Because they're really your human firewall into your building quite often on the physical side, right? Physical entry, but then you could be answering a lot of the phone calls before they get routed to internal people, right? So taking a look at that person, and they do a phenomenal job of protecting us already, but how much do we invest in them, right? So that would be one of the things on the human side. On the more technical side, I think that it's just a matter of time before different companies get some sort of breach, right? We're all just kind of waiting for that day. It's pretty much inevitable. So what's the damage going to be when that happens, and how do we control it? So technologies like microsegmentation, and that's how we really guard against some of the things that we have difficulty patching and stuff like that. So reducing the damage that can occur, I think, is the other big thing on a technical side.
Right. You definitely hit on one that I think is a hot button, which is the micro segmentation, being able to like cordon off certain areas that you just know you can't protect very well and just lock
Yeah.
those down. And
Yeah.
the one of the big challenges that I see is that a lot of companies still are not taking the insider threat issue
hmm
seriously because they think, oh, well, all my people are good. It's like, yeah, all your people might be great,
Yeah.
but if they get compromised, now everybody has whatever they had, and then we've not taken the precautions to assume that it's going to fail. They
Yeah.
hope that it's not going to, and hope is not a strategy. So, definitely, the things you're saying definitely resonate. So I have one final question for you.
Mhm.
You mentioned in your bio that you're a 9-year veteran of search and rescue in British Columbia, which
Yeah.
just sounds like an awesome experience.
Oh, it's
But
totally awesome. Yeah.
you also mentioned that it's kind of related to InfoSec. So I
Yeah.
was wondering if you can kind of bridge that gap for us a little bit and tell us some ways that it's related to InfoSec.
Yeah, sure, sure. So I didn't really join the dots until I got into doing my OSINT for DEFCON. And when I started doing it, I was thinking, this feels very familiar what I'm doing here, hunting for this information and looking for clues and stuff. And then I realized that in my SAR, in my search and rescue background, I'm a tracker. So one of the things I specialize in is tracking people in the woods. And some of the principles that we go by as a tracker is we look for sign. We don't necessarily look for the individual or the subject. And so what I'm doing when I'm doing my OSINT is I'm looking for a lot of sign. I'm looking for things that I can connect together to figure out in tracking, we'd say direction of travel. And so that's kind of what I'm doing when I'm doing my OSINT. So it's a very similar mindset to me when I'm doing both of those exercises, and I love it. It's I found that OSINT was super addictive. I'm a bit of a weird person, I think, because on my weekends I enjoy just doing OSINT on lost people or criminals or whatever that I can try to have that challenge with, and yeah, I really like doing that. I like tracking too, so it's just a very similar feeling.
Cool, cool. That's awesome. That's a good answer. So, all right, great. So, I can't wait to continue the conversation on a lot of these topics with you at the conference.
hmm Yeah.
Again, we'll be at Source Phoenix Mesa on February 28th and March 1st. And we're going to have a great time, and we hope that a lot of you can make it down to join the conversation with us and see Robert's talk.
Great. Thanks very much.
Great. Thanks a lot. Hope to see you there. Bye.
Bye.